Greetings from the land of Canada. My name is Nooch, and welcome back to the 777 podcast. And today, it is January 22nd, 2020. What a year. What a resounding just year. That's like, I was thinking about it the other day, and it's really strange to think of like all the other generations. Just like in history and like what years they've lived through. And it's like, what were the banner years? The ones that really stand out more than anything. And I bet everybody from every generation could tell you that their generation had the best years. They were like, oh yeah, 1752, that was like when people had that year. It was crazy, you know? Just I don't think that it's like nearly as like dramatic as like something like 2000, like literally the year 2000. That's nuts. Like just being able to live through that year. And like there's people out there right now who are like not old enough. Like they're 20, they're like 19, and they have not experienced the year 2000. And it's such a weird concept for me to even imagine. And like, because that year was just so insane. Like there was so much panic. And like even, well, not so much panic. It was actually a pretty sweet year. I was 6, and like surprising enough, I do remember the year 2000. I'd actually just gotten into like computer games at that point, and I was playing Worms Armageddon. So like Worms Armageddon for me like kind of desensitized me to the idea of like an apocalypse, because it was just straight up a like a war simulator for kids, because it's like these little worms that are running around shooting each other. And then basically just I was at a New Year's party, and like everyone was going nuts. They were partying like it's the end of the world, but I was 6, so I don't remember much of that. It was still pretty nuts though. I remember a little bit of the aftermath. Lots of parents getting wasted, lots. And that's something that sticks with you for a while, of like the way that parties are and stuff. Like I'd imagine some people had like completely different year 2000s. And it's like it's really odd to think all the different years that people lived through. Now 2020, this is like such a symmetrical year. And I just think it's like really, like there's going to be some crazy stuff that goes down this year, especially because there's just a huge X factor was going on in the States, where it's just like, is he going to bomb another country? We don't know. It's like he just, there's this theory that I heard one time. It was about how Russia's government is like controlling America's to some degree. And it's like, there's a lot of merit to that theory. And the theory is that they want America to become like very like dissatisfied, and like they want another civil war, to say the least, so that like America is like all at war with each other, and they're going nuts, and they don't notice like Russia just sending their troops through the newly melted Antarctica. And it's like, this is such a wild, far out theory. But like as a Canadian, I'm like, I like get scared for this the more that I like humor it. And because they want to invade Canada first to get to America. And it's just like, what a weird concept that somebody came up with. And it's like, it's so scary because it's possible. It's like, it's entirely possible that something like that could happen. It's like, there's nothing to say that it won't, especially with the amount of like correlation there is between everything like that. By the way, for those of you watching the stream right now, I'm playing GTA 5 3-card poker at the Diamond Casino. And this is just sort of to entertain the viewers out there, because the listeners, I'm going to be trying to make some crazy stuff happen with like my thoughts and everything. And just how like just try to be entertaining that way. So that's why I was sort of like going over, like I just want to get the conspiracy theories like right out the gates, just because it's hilarious to just think of all that like paranoid stuff that just goes right through your head when you're stoned. And it's like that stuff is so like outlandish. Like in your waking life, You would never consider that. It's only when you're baked and like your brain is just like, whoa, bro, like what if this happened? And you're like, dude, that's nuts. And it's like, it's literally that in your head all the time. And like sometimes it's annoying. Like, don't get me wrong, trust me, I completely acknowledge the fact that some of these claims are super annoying to listen to, and they're just like, what do you mean, like that's so dumb? And it's like, it's just way funnier and like way more interesting once you've like seen like once you've seen the like where I'm coming from. Like, it's so hard to understand what I mean by everything if you don't if you like don't smoke. I don't know, it's hard to say that because I haven't like been a non-smoker for a very long time. Like I could tell you guys about how I got into smoking weed at a very young age. Honestly, this is like really personal because it's I feel like a lot of people have this story, but it was entirely like my own decision in some way or another. I forget what entirely led up to it. It was like Halloween, okay? It was Halloween. I was 15 and I was at one of my oldest friends' house. Like literally this guy was the neighbor to my parents while I was like 1 year old. They were literally right next to us. And the guy was a year younger than me. And so he's 14, I'm 15. It's like the last year we're doing Halloween, right? It's like literally almost at that point you don't want to trick or treat because already you're getting old, right? I've already been drunk at that point. And yeah, okay. LRMJ in chat says that you kind of think like that if you have bad anxiety and paranoia. Exactly. That's why it's a trip. That's why it's always a trip when you get high. It's like you're sort of like inducing these thoughts upon yourself. You know what I mean? And like you have to be very grounded as a person in your waking life to not let these thoughts affect you. And I feel like that's something that not a lot of people have for like their own mentality. And it's something that I really have worked on a lot. And I've done like a lot of, like not a lot, but like a decent amount of research and like critical thinking. Like critical thinking is what it really comes down to. Like you got to look at a lot of factors and sort of piece together your own formulative opinion, and then like just sort of like weigh that against reality and like how plausible it is. And like to some people that just sounds so hard to do. That just sounds like paranoid, like anxiety. That's just what it sounds like. But it's something that you can work through. You can come to a conclusion and like very like resoundly just be like, that's what I believe in. And it's very profound. And like the way that you do that is you sort of come to terms with death. I think that's huge. That's a massive step forward in like getting over and like getting through anxiety and depression, is that you need to look at the end and you have to really like think through it a lot. And it's kind of hard to describe, but growing up in like a somewhat religious family, like we weren't like the most devout Christians, but we still like went to church on like Christmas and like stuff like that. And like my sister had her first communion. I could not have my first communion because I was playing hockey all the time, but just wasn't time for it. And essentially it makes you think about death a lot growing up in a religious family. It really does. And the way that you kind of look at it through a skeptic's eyes is just, it was something so natural to me. I don't know how else to describe it. Even when I was a young baby, like 3 years old, 4 years old, it was so hard for me to wrap my head around all of the basics of like Christianity. Like, oh, there was this guy, he could walk on water and like get everybody drunk with it. Like, what? Like he turned water into wine? What? Like, and it was just so, what? Like, what do you mean? And there's these places, heaven and hell, and you'll go to one of them when you die. And it's just like, wait, what? Like, it's just so like, it's scary, right? So you're thinking of it as just, you don't want it to be real because it already is scary. Like, don't, like, be a good boy so that you don't go to hell. And it's like, oh, it's terrifying. I have to listen to my parents. I have to do what they say. I have to fall in line. I have to conform. I have to, like, I have to behave. I have to do what society tells me. And, like, these are the thoughts that, like, infiltrate your mind, and they're so insidious because they just, they warp your mind state at a very young age. And I feel like I had sort of an aversion to it to some degree because of, like, my development just in general, like, and it helps being in the age that we are, where technology is so advanced and it's so astounding that, like, it's more impressive. It's, like, more impressive than to hear about, like, a miracle. Like, oh, Saint Nick would go and put presents in people's shoes. Sure, I'm sure that exists. I'm sure that somebody, like, did that and everybody loved him for it. But, like, how is that more incredible than 100 million people being able to share an experience together because of a computer screen and some speakers, which teleport the visuals of an event and the sound millions of miles away? Well, not millions, but, like, yeah, you could shoot them into space and have millions. And instantly transmit that. And it's like, there's so many modern day miracles that really make you think that what does this all mean? What does religion all mean? What is it trying to do? And the first thing that I realized is it's trying to calm you down. It really is. It's just trying to give you something to latch onto. It's trying to make you more at ease, less anxious, less scared. And, like, in that sense, it's like a very, like, primitive, like, very, like, I want to say primitive, but it's not the word. It's not the right word because it's very like, it's hard to describe the word that I'm thinking of, and I always struggle with this because it's saying primitive is incredibly insensitive because there's places in the world that are still in that state. And, like, it's just, you can't really, like, it's very hard to think of, like, you have to step outside of it and get a look at everything to be able to fully understand, like, what religion is used for and, like, what its creation was for. And it's like, there was no religion in Native American society. Their religion in the North was, like, not to a deity. It wasn't to a power. They didn't base their society off of it. They just, like, accepted and came up with the idea that everything in the world around them has a soul, and everything around them is alive and can, like, experience things. And to some degree, they're right. Like, maybe an inanimate object like a manufactured mouse, or, like, actually, or like a table, maybe those don't have much life left in them. But, like, a plant, like some dirt that has microorganisms in it, like, even then, if you start to consider microorganisms, then they're right, you know, like, they're absolutely right. Every single thing has microorganisms on it. Right. A lot of, I'm talking about North American tribes, South American tribes, and, like, African tribes, and, like, people like those all have, well, not all, but mostly have deities. But, like, it's a spiritualism that has, I've only been really, like, I've only studied it mostly in Canada, and how, like, the Native Canadians were seeing the world through their eyes. And basically, it's really, like, even them, they had, like, their deities, of course. Like, it's all the god of the sun, like, the god of the wind, like, the clouds, the lake. I don't know their names specifically, but it's like that you wouldn't be able to pronounce them in English. So, like, these are all like, very powerful images that people have to come up with so that they can, like power through their lives essentially, and like it's a survival instinct, and coming up with that is very advanced. It's extremely advanced. It's one of the reasons why human beings are so advanced. I just said that word like a million times, but it's kind of true. Like that's like that, to have a society based off of that, off of like the idea of something greater than you that is just like providing to you and for you, is just, it's humbling. It's humbling in a way. But I think that there's no one religion that like really nails it down, for the one reason that nobody has been able to like die and then return to like share their experiences with us. And I find it's like the idea of it is honestly in it itself terrifying. So like I don't want to humor it too much, because like what I just described is basically Jesus. Like basically, like he died for our sins, what people say, and that's like, what I still don't know what that means. Like, for our sins, like what did I do? Like that was 2,000 years ago. Like I don't know. Sorry, that's pretty ignorant for me to say that. Like I know for it. I know about it mostly offhand, but let me just take some water. Okay. So whether or not religion in and of itself is true and like is congruent to any like afterlife that you might experience, I personally believe that the mystery itself is something that you really have to sort of cherish in a way. Like you have to relish the mystery of it, because you don't know what happens. No one can tell you. People can guess. People can give it their best shot. People can do as much research as they can into what happens and all that stuff. But the truth is, it comes down to, there's one guarantee in life. And this is okay. I feel like I took a really long roundabout way to get to this point, and I'm sorry for people who have left in the middle of it. But basically, the one thing that you can count on in all of life is that you're gonna die. And that's basically it. And it's so, once you learn that, and like once you accept that, and that it's like, it's not on you, it's not your fault, everybody's gonna die. What happens after, it's so far out of your control that people are so terrified of it that they have to come up with a million stories everywhere. Every single society and throughout history has come up with their own ways to describe what the afterlife is and what happens after you die. And the truth is, you don't know. And I think that's fine. I think that's fine. I think that it's like, it's the one guarantee you have. You're gonna get there, you know? You're gonna get there. You just have to, like, you don't even have to wait. There's no waiting. You just have life. Just experience your life day to day. What you have the energy for is all up to you. It's really what you want to put into your day-to-day life, and like how you wake up in the morning, and you want to optimize your energy. That's how I feel mostly. Now that I've turned 25, I'm going to be turning 26 soon. That's crazy. I feel like I just turned 25. And it's so like, now that I'm getting older, I'm starting to think, how do I preserve my energy? How do I wake up in the morning feeling energized? How do I like not feel crummy throughout the day? Because our time is all that we have. Our time alive is all we have. And then you die. And then who knows what happens? It could be infinite. You could be reincarnated. Buddhism might be correct. You might have made so many mistakes, or not so many mistakes, but the same mistake that you did in your previous life, and now you have to relive. Imagine that. Imagine it's the same life you relive. Imagine you relive the same life every time, and there's like slight differences that you have to basically there's decisions, like those decisions that you make alter everything. And it's just every time you get a little bit better, every time you learn something that you did wrong, and you do the opposite this time. Like, what about that? Why haven't? What religion is that? You know, like that's just a concept of what happens after you die, and it's completely made up, and it could be, you know, you never know. That could be what I experience. You never know. Everybody could experience the afterlife differently. For some people, they might go to heaven. Imagine that. Some people, and then some people get to fly in the cosmos for the rest of their lives, experiencing all the different universes and all the different asteroids and civilizations on other planets and timelines, and they just get to exist in the ether in like whatever dimension they believe in. And there's just so many ways for you to like think about how am I gonna die, and like what's gonna happen to me after. And I feel like you need to come to a conclusion so that you can put your mind at rest. And for a lot of people, that's religion. When people invest in a religion, I actually think it might be beneficial in some ways or another, because it's peace of mind more than anything. It's like a way of sort of like getting to your day-to-day life more effectively without having to worry about like, without having to think too much, right? That's why religion. So you're gonna die, don't worry. And it's like, okay, I accept that, and then you move on. And then the thoughts that you have of like what happens after you die, what happens if religion's wrong, those all take up so much time, so much energy, that having them by themselves already is like almost a detriment. But it leads to such critical thinking, and you can see the world in such a new lens that it's honestly worth it, because you start to, instead of it being a competition of like, can I be the best? I just want to get to heaven. I want to get there, you know? It's such a high like goal for me to do that. And it's like your whole life is based around like living your like I don't know, it's so inconsiderate of like a lot of things, because you already look down on people by thinking of, I need to be the best, right? Like I need to be better than everybody just through like my actions. And you're not helping people. That's the problem. Is that there's not people who are out there. Well, there are people out there who do that, but there's not many. And like there's so many of people that I know, and like in history, that have all done horrible things under the name of religion, and people follow them because they're like, yeah, he's right, he's talking about what I believe in, and thus I have to believe him, right? And it's such like a insidious way of controlling people. And the thing is, religion's been around forever, so it's not like somebody came up with it and then boom, they ran with it. They're just manipulating it. So personally, I'm agnostic. I don't really have faith in a single God. I don't have think that like a sentient being could really be responsible for everything in the universe. I think that that's already terrifying, and the more that you think about it, the more you realize that worshiping him and like trying to appease him is completely useless. It's just a waste of time essentially, and it's way better to just focus on your day-to-day life and like love your life. That's like the next part, is like you need to love your life. You have to find the joy in what you do and just really try to take every day like as best as you can, and try to be a positive influence on people and yourself, and follow through with things, and give yourself goals. And it's so it all just adds up to like try to be more proactive with like your energy. And it's like you can do that. There are people who are going to take your time, and that exists. It's just a fact of life. There's a food chain. It's a giant food chain. We got out of the food chain in terms of nature a long time ago. Now we have a society that is basically a food chain, and it's like you don't die. That's the thing. It's not as brutally punishing as it used to be. It's like, oh, okay, you just have to work a little bit harder than the guy above you. It's like, oh, okay, it's just because he like was better in school than you, or like he had a better plan with his life, or he succeeded in a way that he worked really hard for, or maybe he got really lucky, who knows. And you can't like decide what he gets. So you have to have your own goals and have your own aspirations, and sort of hold yourself to them, but don't feel shackled by them. Don't feel like they're all you have, because that's when you start to feel cornered. That's when you start to like really just become stressed, because you feel like you're not getting somewhere, or you're getting somewhere too slow. And it's just, you have to realize that where you are right now in your life, there's so much worse that you could do. And you're giving it your best shot, and don't be so hard on yourself. And it's you need to hear these things. So it's very interesting, because I think that a lot of people don't think critically like this. It really does like come to me sometimes that there's just so much ignorance in the world, and like so much stuff that people take for granted. And it's just, you have to take the bad with the good. That's another thing that I like to say. You have to take the bad with the good, because without the bad, the good feels pointless. You don't appreciate the good. So the bad itself adds to the good. And like let's talk about the weather right now. The weather in Canada is so fucked. Like it's like you have days where it snows like 10 inches straight up, and the next day it's 32 degrees Celsius or Fahrenheit, whatever the freedom unit one is, and it's like 0. The snow's melting the next day. I've never seen that before. I've lived in Canada for like my entire life. I've never seen like January, the snow's melting right after it snowed an absolute metric ton. It makes no sense. There's something going on. There's something that's changing drastically. And it's at the price of like our cars. Like every day I'm like, our cars. We have too many cars. They're just everywhere. I can't park because there's too many cars on the street. There's more cars than there are street. How does that make sense? How you just can't put it anywhere. And like the people are reserving spots so that they can put their car specifically there. And these are all gas cars. Like there's like 10, not even 10%. It's like 5% or something that are all like electric, and they're finally like good for the environment to some degree. They're still like generating heat. It really comes down to like the laws of thermodynamics, right? About energy leaving and entering a system. There's nothing leaving and entering Earth. There just isn't. We're not like gravity is just pulling all of the weak gases back into our Earth. It's not just floating out into space. It can't do that. Like if we were able to find a way to like transport large portions of it like deep into space, then it might. But like now you're talking about like large scale gas clouds. How is that feasible? How would you manage that? It's incredible. It's like there's so many like gases that are being produced that are heating up the Earth, and it's melting like the ice caps, and there's just more water everywhere, and it's just that the average temperature is rising, so you have way higher fluctuations in the weather, and it's weird. I just want to go skiing, man. I just want the park not to be flooded. I'm worried about going to skate. Like, I don't know. Like, I already have enough anxiety trying to like work my way up to finally getting my skates out and like joining a beer league and like just playing hockey, man. I haven't played hockey in 10 years. I used to only play hockey. That was literally what I did. My whole childhood was half hockey, half school. That was it. I had nothing else. No other hobbies except video games, when I could like really, really like video games were like my passion, right? I had to play hockey and I had to be in school. The one thing that I chose to like over everything else was video games, because it's like you create your own adventure. Essentially, you're provided with like a tool, a canvas, and you can just like build your own experience. And it's just something I really enjoyed when I was a kid. And it's like the weather's messed up, man. Stuff's changing fast, and I'm hoping that we're going to be ready for it. And it's like you have to take the bad with the good. You gotta sort of step back and look at it all and think it's not that big of a deal. And it's hard. It's like, even then, like, just saying that, it's hard to like, it's so hard to say that, because it's like you're acknowledging like death and like your ego and like who you are. And it's like, it's so, you just have to let it go. I've listened to a bit of Alan Watts, and he's very passionate with what he says, and he hits home because he's so good at articulating concepts to people, like the concept of like nirvana. I'm saying global warming isn't a big deal to that's not what I'm saying, by the way. I am saying it's definitely a big deal. Like, don't say that I said that global warming isn't a big deal. I said that dying isn't a big deal. I said that being dead isn't a big deal. Everybody does it. It's literally the one thing that we all have in common. Some people don't even breathe. Some people die straight out the womb. But like, at least they still have death, They have the one thing that we all have in common. And it's like, you just have to sort of try to live your life in a way to preserve the time that you have so that you can enjoy it, so that you can experience it and have a rich, fulfilling life as best as you can. And it's not that, like, you don't need to have a lot of money to do it, you really don't. You can do it with other things. There's such insane, incredible ways to express your creativity as an individual, just like through drawing, through dancing, through singing. All of these things are very cheap, almost free, and people are able to do these all throughout their lives, and they're perfectly happy, and they don't have to worry about global warming, which is a concept that if you didn't read the news, you'd have no idea about. You would think, the weather's kind of messed up today. And then that'd be it. You wouldn't have all this pressure on you to be like, oh man, I really need to invest in like a good car so that I can like help the environment and everything, which is like, it's definitely a good idea, but it's also a way to get you to spend money. It's also a way to get you to invest in the market. And it's like, there's just so many factors. And sometimes you just have to take a look and take a step back from everything and say, if a giant meteor hit Earth right now and killed everything, that would be normal. That would literally just be like a regular day on planet Earth. It's happened before. Like this, it's like, it's so like, yeah, like, that's humbling. You seriously have such little control over it, and like no control. The illusion of control is so dangerous because it makes you toxic, because you just think you can like dictate everything, and you just can't. You just can't. You can try to influence things as best you can, but at the end of the day, the pieces fall where they may. You can't anticipate everything. You can't control everything. It just doesn't work. And it's too hard for you to even consider. It's like, just enjoy your life. Find something you enjoy doing and stick to it. Really, like, be your best at it, And like, for me, something that I've been trying to do recently is just be a better sport, Just like be a better, like, not a sore loser. That's like such a piss poor thing that I've dealt with my entire life. Is just losing was so hard for me, because there's so much pressure, right? There's so much society pressure of you to like win and succeed, and once you do, you can do nothing for the rest of your life and you can just fucking chill, right? You can do that. You can just win the international, be a millionaire, and coast the rest of your life. And like, holy shit, isn't that so tempting? Isn't that the most tantalizing thing you've ever heard? But like, you know how much work it takes? You could do it, but it would take your whole life. Your whole life, you'd have to sacrifice everything. You couldn't have anything. And if you lost, imagine how you would feel. You would feel devastated. You would be devastated. Your whole life would be at your feet. I'm sure that people's all their lives have ended because of like not being able to succeed in Dota. Even just thinking about like coming in second in TI. Holy crap! Such a massive difference in being the winner and being the loser. What's the 10,000 hour rule? A digital haunt. I want to hear it. I want to hear what you think the 10,000 hour rule is. Because I've seen some people with 10,000 hours on Dota. I wasn't impressed. It's like it's not a measurement. The amount of time you spend something isn't a measurement of how hard you worked for something. That's why you can see people with 2,000 hours, 3,000 hours in CS:GO competing at a high level and competing for like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, playing for tier 1 teams because they work so hard at the game and they know the ins and outs and they know what to practice and they know how to get good and they don't just play pubs all day, raging at randoms. They actually work on themselves. That huge gap of like just playing pubs and practicing on your own is what separates the absolute all-time winners who just are so confident in what they do and how they've worked hard for everything, and the people who just play for fun. And it's like there's nothing wrong with either of those. The worst part is when you just commit your life to something and then you don't make it. It's devastating, and I don't want to go through that. It's terrifying to even think of that. So in that case, like I'm done trying to compete in Dota. I think that I already sort of missed my shot at that. Having my hands start to hurt was like the first sign where I was like, I don't think I'm gonna make it, you know. And like the less that you have time for something, the worse you become at it, especially at high levels. So, I mean, as far as becoming a Dota pro goes, it's really like it's down to like the individual. It's crazy. It's 10,000 hours of practicing. Okay. See, this is it. Okay. I read about it in the book Outliers. It's about really actually genuinely becoming an expert at something by working for 10,000 hours. So, it's practicing, right? That's what you would say. The whole time is practicing. And in that sense, is all the time that you had fun and like that you messed around and experimented and tried new things and learned about the game. That would all be considered practicing. But it's astounding the amount of people who are able to put those hours in. It's not becoming a master at something is very like in this day and age not very special. It's really like it's like you could be a master at something, but if you have to be so incredibly talented at it to be able to like take it to the next level and like really be in the top percentile. Like I was talented at Portal. I really was. I did a lot of research on that game. I learned the ins and outs. I learned all the routes. I learned what it takes to be a world record setter. I learned the different glitches, the different exploits. I tried to find a way to put it onto console, and there was techniques and routes that were just physically impossible. You couldn't do them. The 60 frames per second was a huge limiter on how fast you could actually move your character's cursor, especially with an analog stick. It's so imprecise. So you couldn't bunny hop. You couldn't bunny hop and you couldn't accelerate backwards hop, because to do that you'd have to raise your sensitivity all the way to the max, and that basically guarantees that you miss every single shot you take because your cursor is so sporadic at that point. And it's shocking. It's like it's so hard. So like you just have to jump forwards. And that's what I did. And then what happens is I looked up I designed a route. Okay, I designed my own personal route in Portal 1. I was like, this is a fast route. This is going to be really fast. And I got so far through the route so many times, and all that I wanted was a personal best. That was it. I was recording the whole thing. Like I would lose at like the furthest I got, I think was like right before the big room with all the turrets in Portal 1. The big room with all the turrets with like a good pace, a good time. I had nailed like most to, if not all of my stuff. And after like failing at that point, I was so devastated because like I described, you lost, right? So I was like, screw it. I'm just gonna like cut it and put it together and just call that my personal best. And I accidentally set the world record. And once I uploaded the video, that was it. You know, like I worked so hard on that video. I couldn't not upload it, right? The mistake that I made was I called it a world record. I should have called it a segmented personal best. And that was documentation that I fucked up royally, because I'm sure that it's really, there's no one that was harmed necessarily, and except for like I guess you guys, because you were lied to about like the world record, right? It was still a fantastic time to begin with, but like sort of putting it together, sort of like this reanimated, like stitched together world record, it just wasn't, I guess it wasn't fair. It wasn't fair. It really wasn't. And that's just the way that it went though. And I have to, like, I was really hard on myself. Like you guys have to understand that I beat myself up over this like a lot. And like, it made me question everything. I was like, after I looked back at that and was wondering, I didn't really remember the full story. I just remembered that, oh, I cheated. That was it. I lied. I made it a segmented run. And there was like, that was like the only thing that I could remember, and it haunted me for so long until I remembered the actual story, the actual front to back, the amount of work that I put in, and like the amount of stuff that I did just in my bedroom every day. Wake up, grind, go to sleep, grind, and it, like school and like everything else sort of came in between. And I was like, I just wanted to make like, and like YouTube, like I had more time to play this game than to work on YouTube. And it was so like such a sigh of relief when I finally released it. And I was like, oh my God, like this isn't crazy. This is incredible. This is so like mind blowing for me to be able to do this. And it was kind of unjustified. It was unjustified in a way, but there was not like I don't deserve to be scrutinized for it, because I've proven throughout my actions that I sort of could have done it, you know? Like I could have done it. I kind of gave it to myself, but if I had not gotten impatient and really worked for it, who knows where I'd be now, because I would know what it would be to like be the guy that puts in the extra work, right? So like the only person that I cheated is myself. So in the end, I ended up punishing myself for it harder than anyone else could. Especially since I decided to take up such a competitive game like Dota. And like then playing like Portal 2 and like setting records in that game. Whew, those were good times. That was honestly amazing. I still like think back to like all the times I would like just get up screaming out of my computer chair about like setting a record, and like looking at the leaderboards and seeing nobody above me. I saw like somebody with like 3 seconds, and you know that's just somebody who like cheated, right? Like they just saved the game. They knew like a save state exploit. I think I heard about, like, cause I looked that up. I was like, there's fucking no way you can do this chamber in 3 seconds. And it was like all the chambers too. It's like, no, that's not, there's no mechanic. There's no gameplay mechanic. There's no skill. It's just there's no talent. There's nothing. You're pressing 2 fucking buttons. There's no credit to that. So finally, like, being at the top is just, it's crazy. It's like, and like, this is what I was saying before about how, this is like real, right? Like, this isn't being like, it's not being religious. It's not. It's just a fact. It's just, I don't know. I'm sort of getting all muddled up. Let's try to bring it back for a bit. I'm gonna have some water. Then playing Dota, being top 200. Top 200 was nuts, because that was like the hardest I think I'd ever worked, like, just in general. Like, do you know how hard it is to do YouTube, have school going, and be top 200 in Dota? Like, it takes such a strong mentality, and like, looking back, there's no like trick to it. There's no way to like trick it and to like cheat it and to be like, oh, this is the one thing you gotta do, and once you do it, you'll get a bunch of MMR. It's like, no, it's just grinding, learning the game, reacting, being quick, not having quick reactions necessarily. I think quick reactions are second to good reactions. Good reactions are different than quick reactions. You can react quickly, but that just means that, like, maybe you panicked, you know? Like, maybe your mouse jerked a little bit. And that's like, it's different from, like, reacting in a way that gives you the win, you know? You react and you stay calm and you choose the right decision quickly, you know? Not instantly, not snap decision, not just, you didn't mess something up. You didn't, like, make a mistake while you were doing that decision. So it's just one movement, boom, or like a couple of movements, and just you do them properly. It's not about doing them quickly, it's about doing them properly. And it's just, there's such a huge difference in mentality. And it's like, when I got to top 200, my mentality was, I can play Train Protector better than anyone. That was my mentality. I was like, I can play this hero to a degree, and I know about this hero more than anyone. I know more about this hero than anyone. That was my mentality. Maybe people were better than me at the hero. They had higher win rates, but I knew more about this hero than anyone. That was my mentality. And it started with how much I had played him before, and then they made a big change to him, and I realized how powerful it could be in like the right situations. So then after that, I was like, I just had to keep thinking that. That was it. I'd never left my mind, and then I grinded the whole thing. Yeah. Okay. So okay, I'm just reading chat a little bit, just catching up with chat. So, quick off-topic question. Is Jack still going to be on the podcast when he can be? He'll be around. He's not gone forever. It's just he's just starting his new job, and it's very stressful for him. I have a feeling he's going through like a moment, sort of a phase where he's kind of unhappy with his like position. Like, he doesn't really like his job too much. Maybe the people he's working with, who knows? He just seems like he's genuinely unhappy. And I think that once he realizes that coming back and doing the podcast is going to make him like a lot happier and like really like down to like, I don't know, have fun. Because I was like the whole thing. I was just like, it's fun. This is like just a fun podcast. That's the only reason to do it. And it's like, he's going to be back, hopefully. I mean, the worst case scenario is he never comes back because of like extraneous reasons. But like, God forbid, right? Yeah. So nowadays it's just like, I really want to work on my own personal health, I think. And like I feel like I'm getting old, and like I don't like it. I really want to like do things so that I don't feel like sort of out of breath, weak, uh sore. Like I've picked up exercising recently to like a certain to a certain beat, you know? Like I kind of need to lay it on the line a bit more, like make it a bit more concrete. And I think I've got it. I think I've got the right balance for exercising that I would really be happy with. And it's 2 days of running with 1 day break in between. And the weekends I have free. The weekends I can do whatever I want. I can exercise more if I want. I don't have to if I don't want to. And it's like I think that plus like 20 push-ups a day is gonna keep me energized no matter what, all the time. Because like I'm not sleepy, you know, like I'm not like super tired all the time. One thing I think I need to do is like stand up a bit more when I'm at work. Try not to be sitting down for like 3 hours, go on break, sit down for 2 hours, go on lunch, sit down for 3 hours, go on break. Just standing up in general. And just to like get the blood flowing a little bit, move around a bit, just because like staying in one place for a long time, it just kind of sucks. I don't know. That plus like eating better. Like I'm trying to like modify my diet to a point where I don't feel uncomfortable, like in certain like internally, you know. Like there's some discomfort that I have that isn't that serious, right? Like there's no pain for it, and it doesn't feel like debilitating. It feels like it only gets better. It feels like if I work on it, it gets better. So why shouldn't I just focus on working on it? And it's interesting because like recently I cut out cereal, just like milk and cereal. I had that every single day, and I started to feel like pressure on my heart, like this weird like feeling of like if my heart beated, like if I got really excited for something, it started beating fast. It would kind of like make me jump up a bit, like be like, oh, you know, like it feel like it'd skip a beat almost. And like I was like, okay, that's just because I haven't been exercising, I haven't been running, I haven't been like doing that sort of stuff. So the more that I started to do that, the more that it was like, okay, it helped a little bit, but it didn't like completely remove the problem, which was that it had this discomfort. So now that I've removed cereal and I'm going to replace it with like eggs, something a little bit healthier, I think that is going to like be a huge factor, plus like regular exercise to just really like push myself over the edge in terms of like having the energy to do things. And like, you got to enjoy what you do, you know, you got to have fun. That's why before this podcast, I was feeling anxious. I was like, I'm going to be alone. There's going to be like not a lot of people watching because I've like made so many mistakes that the people who have watched kind of realize that it can be a bit of a shit show. And like taking a little bit of weed, just a little bit, enough to like cut the edge off, you know, is it's good. It's good for you. And it's good for me too. It's like, it helps me. It's like, makes me feel good. And, yeah, I enjoy it. It's, right now I've been going for almost an hour. I'm going to have like another 10 minutes or so. Definitely not going for 2 hours by myself. That's like impossible. What a crazy thing. Like I have poker to like sort of keep me entertained. And like, I feel like we delved into a ton of topics today, and like, push one if you had a good time, if you enjoyed it. Just write some comments if you made it this far in the video. I actually check every comment that people write on my YouTube right now, especially right now. Like in the future, like probably as well, like in the future, just because my YouTube channel is just coasting right now. It's just complete limbo, and it would be like pretty cool to see some reactions. What people say. It's some nice things, hopefully. People can be very judgmental on YouTube, and I mean, it's getting a little bit better, but you still see some dumb comments everywhere. But I'm kind of I'm kind of like dead to it now in terms of like the dumb stuff that people say. Because I say dumb stuff all the time, and people are gonna call you out for it, for being an idiot. You just have to sort of like shrug your shoulders and be like, whatever, man. If you're more upset over it than I am, then that's your problem. So I appreciate you guys pushing one in chat. Thanks. Does make me feel good about this, because like the more that I think about it, the more that I realize that what I'm doing right now, which is just talking constantly, is like how you're supposed to be like a real streamer, right? Like you're supposed to be streaming 8 hours a day and you're just always on. You always need to be entertaining. You always have to be like making jokes and having fun and talking about stuff and filling the air and stuff like that. And that's so hard to do. That's why YouTube was different, because it's like you could grind, make a little bit of a video. That's why making YouTube was so easy for me back then, man. Because when I was grinding video games, there was like, it was all just up here. All the commentary was just up here. So they're all in my head. So I had no like preconception of like just always having the time being spent doing one thing. And like just you're playing the game. So like now that you're able to like talk about it and stuff, it's natural. It just comes naturally. And the more that you do that, the more that like you lose that original thought that you had, where you're just thinking about the game like yourself, thinking about it critically, what you're doing, how to beat it, everything. And there's like a little spark there. There's like some intuition that gets lost in translation. And before you're able to articulate it and really like drive the point home. And yeah, it's fun. It's I want to keep doing this. I think the topics that I'm going to have are going to become like more developed over time. Like I really just need to have like this notepad in front of me, because today I really did just go off the rails, and I love it because we just talked about like stuff that like cosmic stuff, like stuff that just really humbles you and makes you appreciate like your day-to-day life. And like I feel like that's really good, but you can't do that every podcast. You can do it like most of the time, but I really just, even at getting through to one person and making their day better and like making them like feel like, yeah, it's not that bad, there's like, and I don't want to like mix it in with like mixed messages, confusing stuff. Like I could be like, oh yeah, like your life is so good compared to the guy who's living on the street, like you don't want to think about that. That's like now I'm guilt tripping you, and nobody wants to listen to that. Nobody wants to hear that. And like, you just need to sort of like try to live your best life in the best way that you can, and try to get people to respond in positive ways around you. And it's just like, I don't know. I just want to help people. I just want people to be happy with their day-to-day lives, just because I hope to like one day for people to reach that zen, like that mode where they're just like, I'm good, So that being said, I'm going to be wrapping up the podcast in about 2 minutes. I really do want to get that 1 hour mark. It just looks really cool. So I've got 2 minutes of banter. I could talk about how this I played poker at this table for an hour and my money's gone nowhere. I've made 25,000 chips, and that was just in the last hand. I think I was up to like 180 before. Like I haven't been paying too much attention to it. I have a strategy that I stick to, and like I try not to think too much about it, because I obviously need to talk to you guys about like podcasts and stuff and topics like that. And like multitasking is like kind of hard. You get distracted. So I don't know. Like this hand, King 10-10, let's go. It's gonna be hype. Let's bring this out. Give me your money. You play that queen. Yeah, you do. Oof. All right. Well, hope you guys enjoyed the podcast, honestly. I just like having fun with it, honestly. It's cool. I even just doing it solo, like this solo YOLO, I really don't care. Maybe this will like spark that passion back in me of like wanting to be a streamer, and I could just like chill here, do this, stream like this, and like talk to people about random shit, and just like completely like try to blow people's minds, and just like have topics, because like that would be easy. Now that I think about it, just like organizing a stream like a podcast wouldn't, okay, easy is not the word, but it would be easier than just trying to wing it every time, you know? Like there's only so much improvisation that you can do. If there's structure, it makes it so much more manageable. So just thinking about having like different topics just of like to talk about, to fill the space when I'm playing a game like this, where it's like, this is like a 3 action per minute game. I'm literally pressing enter. I press page down to look at my hand. Oh, I got a flush. All right, I press enter again. We're gonna bet that flush, and then hope this guy doesn't pull us straight out of his ass. There you go. We just won the game. And it's like I could have these topics about like school and shit. I don't know what people could talk about, all that stuff. It'd be fun. Yeah, the new Dota channel, that's gonna be hard to stick to. I think that's gonna be something that I really would need to feel inspired to do, and like put so much work into. Like if I can work my way up physically to be in a shape where I could just always be on, and I get home at like fucking 9 on the dot, and I don't feel like going to sleep, you know, and I just feel energized. If I can bring myself to that point, then and only then I will commit energy to creating another project on YouTube, because it is so much work, guys, and it takes a lot out of you. Because if like I said, if it's not successful, you have this pit in your stomach, and these regrets of just like how much time you spent into it. Imagine I launch a new Dota channel and I want it to be successful and everything, and I have a good plan for it and everything, and all of a sudden like every video gets like 50 views, every video gets 100 views. Where's that 10,000 hours then, man? Where is it? It's just a waste of time. It's just wasting more time, especially just by doing this. And it's just that's what you feel. That's what you think. And you're like, oh, and it hurts. And then you got to come back to the zen. You got to let it go, and you got to like relax and just be like, I'm fine. So on that note, hopefully you guys enjoyed this podcast. Thanks a lot for watching, everyone. Take it easy. Peace.